like that,
Yeah.
One
Good morning. Welcome to worship with People's Church. No matter who you are, where you're from, who you love, what you believe or don't believe, you are welcome here. Couple of announcements before we begin. After losing so many trees in the derecho this summer, we are going to gather to remember and honor them on Friday, October 2nd at 5 p.m. at the Patterson's home. Come about 5 to walk the labyrinth or hold space. Starting about 5:30, the branches of trees you have brought previously and any tree branches you bring that evening will be ceremonially burnt in a campfire. The ashes will be saved for part 2 of this sacred ceremony, which will take place in the spring. All are welcome. Our friend Bob Gulick died in March 2020. His memorial service was delayed due to the pandemic. On October 3rd at 2 p.m., we will remember Bob in a socially distanced memorial service out in the parking lot. Jerry and Bob's friends and family would love to have you there. Faith formation will begin on October 4th. Please be sure to register your child or children online. After the service today, breakout rooms will be available. Please stay and chat with others, just as you would in an in-person coffee hour. We are just about done with our 2021 pledge campaign. If you haven't pledged yet and would like to talk with a steward, a Zoom room will be available for that as well, and today's steward will be more than happy to speak with you. The link for this meeting was included in this week's email. And now, let our worship begin.
Thank you, Karen. Karen Mueller is a new special guest musician for us today, so let's give her a warm welcome with some jazz hands. Thank you so much for being here. We look forward to hearing more of your music. Today's opening words come from the Unitarian Earth Spirit Network. The autumn equinox. The sun, on its journey through the wheel of the year, reaches a point of balance. The corn is gathered in. The middle harvest of fruit hangs ready for picking. The time of daylight and the time of darkness rest against one another, and day will yield. Its year's work done. All is fulfilled and rest approaches. Let us celebrate the harvest. Give thanks to Mother Earth for the bounty. The horn of plenty, cornucopia, is full. Let the ground rest. Clear away what has died and process it back to the elements and so to the earth. The wheel turns on through rest to the birth of life again. And we who follow the wheel through the year, let us pause. This is the time for reflecting on the year of our life. This is a time of preparation for peace and a time of rest. Look back at the spring equinox. What did we sow and what have we reaped? What plants have borne fruit and what has not grown? Rejoice in the positive and take what has failed to be burnt on the fire of experience. Leave the way clean and clear and ready for a new year returning. The night closes in. The focus of life comes in from the summer to gather round the hearth and talk. Time to rest, a time to plan, a time to prepare the mind, thinking of what needs to be done, how life can be improved. A time to turn to learning and crafting. A time of gentle preparation. It is a time of celebration and thanksgiving. This is the autumn equinox. This is Mabon. Our first hymn this morning is Come Ye Thankful People, which is number 68 in our hymnals. I invite you to join in singing from home. As Kate lights our chalice, I'll have you say in unison with me the words that are on your screen by Lois Van Leer, On the Brink of a New Year. We light this chalice on the brink of a new year, letting go of what has been open and hopeful for what may come, renewed, restored, ready to live life fully anew. May we move forward with intention. We'll continue now with our affirmation. Love is the spirit of this church, and service is its law. This is our great covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in love, and to help one another. David is going to come forward now, our Director of Faith Formation, and share a time for our young people in a special children's moment. So come on up.
In my years pastoring churches in the past, some of my very best friends were those who were conservative, some of them ultra-conservative. It was in many ways a different time and a different world. On Friday night, we all heard the shocking and sad news of Ruth Bader Ginsburg's death. And it reminded me immediately of her relationship and friendship with Antonin Scalia, who the two of them could not be more diametrically opposed on most issues. Scalia's son is the Secretary of Labor, and he wrote this column for the Washington Post. Much has been made of the friendship between Supreme Court Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg, who died on Friday, and my father, the late Justice Antonin Scalia. I spent many hours with them, 9 p.m. to 1 a.m. to be precise, on many a New Year's Eve. The New Year's dinner tradition dated to the 1980s, when the two were judges on the U.S. Court of Appeals in Washington. Some of the Ginsburg and Scalia children and grandchildren joined, with one or two other couples. Evenings began with champagne and opera playing in the Ginsburg's Watergate apartment. Dinner was prepared by Justice Ginsburg's husband, Marty, who some years served venison or boar from my father's post-Christmas hunting trip. What can be learned from this celebrated friendship between justices? First, in many ways, it was quite simple, as some of the best friendships are. They worked at the same place. They were both New Yorkers, close in age, and liked a lot of the same things: the law, teaching, travel, music, and a meal with family and friends. They had a bond, I think, in that they both grew up as outsiders, to different degrees, to the elites who had ruled the country, she as a Jew and a woman, he as a Catholic and Italian American. Like many good friendships, the Ginsburg-Scalia friendship was between couples, my father and my extraordinary mother, and Justice Ginsburg and Marty. One of the rewards of the two recent movies about Justice Ginsburg is the light that they share on her husband, his humor and intelligence, his powerful love and dedication to his wife. He was a cherished friend for my mother. I long thought Justice Ginsburg enjoyed my father's company, in part for some of the qualities that drew her to Marty. Both were extroverts who brought a boisterous levity that she did not, but which she enjoyed and I think knew she needed. The appreciation for differences was as integral to the justice's friendship as the similarities. She made her mark as a pioneering advocate for women's rights. My father was a traditional Catholic who came to prominence as a critic of activist courts. He respected what she had achieved in an era when the deck was stacked against her. From her experiences, he gained insight and depth of understanding. He liked learning, and he could learn from her. In that spirit, it is often remarked today that if our government leaders spent more time together, they would come to like and respect one another, be more civil, and achieve consensus, harmony, and wondrous legislation. I first became aware of Justice Ginsburg when she and my father were on the Court of Appeals for the D.C. Circuit, and he lamented good-naturedly that she'd written an opinion describing his view of the case as less than fully baked. It might have been worse, I said. She could have called your ideas half-baked. No, he said with an appreciative grin, this was worse. It can mean I'm 1/4 or 1/5 baked. The two disagreed vigorously the rest of their lives on some of the most important things. Justice Ginsburg's opinion in the Supreme Court's landmark decision requiring the admission of women to VMI, my father wrote, was politics smuggled into law. Meanwhile, she dismissed his argument in the first case on the Affordable Care Act as outlandish. His opinion in an important criminal law case took a wrecking ball to the statue, she said, to which he replied, recalling her jab from decades earlier, that her opinion was a dish the court has cooked up all on its own, and so on. What we can learn from the justices, though, beyond how to be a friend, is how to welcome debate and differences. The two justices had central roles in addressing some of the most divisive issues of the day, including cases on abortion, same-sex marriage, and who would be president. Not for a moment did one think the other should be condemned or ostracized. More than that, they believed what they were doing, arriving at their own opinions thoughtfully and advancing them vigorously. They believed that was essential to the national good. With less debate, their friendship would have been diminished, and so they believed would our democracy. One of my fondest memories of my parents was one of the last New Year's dinners. My wife and I sat back as four dear friends chit-chatted about the court, grandchildren, and a sauce for wild boar. How fortunate for my father, I thought, in his sometimes lonely position to have the comfort of such friends. How fortunate for us all, especially those who are partisans of one or the other of these great figures, to have the example of their friendship.
Today's first reading is Autumn Equinox by Hestia's Muse. I have survived the fiery kiln of summer, baked and purified under life-giving sun. That light, so bright and strong, I craved it all winter, yet somehow found it stifling and harsh during those strong summer days. Now I find crisp, cold mornings, balanced by hot cider and warm evening blankets, busy, active days, balanced by quiet stillness of night. I am finding balance again at the equinox as I stand here on tiptoe at the precipice between life and death. Equal day and night will find me dancing between consciousness and dream. Looking behind, I gather my harvest. Looking ahead, I gather my harvest. It all somehow feels simultaneously too small and too big. I take this hardened shape of my spirit, purified in the fires of summer, and I paint it all the gold and red and orange shades of fall. I glaze it with the cool rains of autumn. Dying leaves fall from trees, and old fears fall from my hair like dandruff. I brush it all aside and prepare a bed for myself to welcome the coming dark nights of dreaming. I dig down deep into the sleeping clay of next year's creation. And now please join in hymn number 53, I Walk the Unfrequented Road. Today's second reading is Less Here Now by Sean Parker Dennison. Less light today than yesterday, less sun for growing things, less time for demanding doing, less gleam and shine and sheen and dazzle. I do not know how much I needed this diminishment. Here is the last green-pink tomato turning. Here is the rough undercoat thickening. Here is the urge to dig in for hibernation. Here is the slow return to the fire. I did not know the importance of this respite, this repose. Now the smell of decay and transformation. Now the fruiting and the harvest. Now the letting go, the fiery spin into the wind. Now the sigh of completion. I did not know death could be so beautiful. I did not understand the relief of letting go.
Thank you, Kate. Every day this year seems to bring something new to be stressed out about. On Friday evening, for example, after the news broke that Ruth Bader Ginsburg had died, I was sad. And then I started to worry. I worried about all the unknowns that I could think of, how this would impact the election, how it would impact my family personally, how this would shape the future of our country. And I know I wasn't alone in this. I watched so many people that I know enter into a similar process of sadness, which quickly ignited into anxiety about the future. There's a lot of anxiety in the air right now about RBG, yes, the election, climate change, racial injustice, pandemic life, school, work, the economy, and so much more. The world just seems out of balance. Nothing feels normal. It's like we are on a seesaw, and the person on the other side keeps getting on and off at random. It's hard to catch a breath. Moments of stability are rare, and there's just no way of knowing what to expect next. Feels a little out of control, if you ask me, which makes it sort of ironic, perhaps, or appropriate, that we are honoring the autumn equinox this week, a time of balance. At this time of year, the earth, as always, perfectly balanced on its axis, is aligned just so with the sun to make it possible for the entire planet to experience a balance of light and dark. Night and day are equal in length everywhere. It's a deeply sacred time. People around the world have long marked this occasion. As Patricia Motley points out in Nature's Honor, both the fall and spring equinoxes are marked by ancient structures around the world. In Europe, Asia, Africa, and the Americas, we find stone cairns, pyramids, temples, and other earthen mounds whose deliberately precise east-west orientation enabled them to announce to their devoted builders both spring and fall equinoxes. Our ancestors around the globe paid very close attention to the sun. They knew its cycles and seasons. They praised it and honored it for its life-giving energy, and twice a year, when the equinoxes came around, they were ready. They knew it was coming. They let themselves fully experience balance. They took time to observe it, to engage with balance, to let balance shape their lives. Here in Iowa this week, we have an opportunity to do the same, to tune into nature, to honor the cycles and seasons of the year, and to mark the autumn equinox on Tuesday. And because we live in the Northern Hemisphere, this observance is also a time for us to celebrate the harvest season. There are many ways to observe the autumn equinox, or Mabon, as our pagan siblings call it. It is customary to celebrate by decorating your surroundings with fruits of the harvest and by practicing warmth and hospitality, which, yes, usually does involve hosting a harvest meal and having friends in the house. It's something we can't really do this year. So how about practicing warmth and hospitality by writing notes of gratitude, thank you, to friends and neighbors instead? You might also honor this holiday by tending to your home and your garden to prepare them for the dark months ahead. For example, you might think about cleaning out the garage or the attic, having a yard sale, getting rid of clutter, getting your car ready for winter, and refreshing your home with a deep clean. It's a great time of year to prepare your space for the cooler, darker weather to come. Days which will be spent largely indoors, preferably by a nice warm fire. This year, all of that still sounds good. But unlike any other season any of us have ever lived through, this fall is going to be different. We are facing an historic election in just about 6 weeks, now with a vacancy on the Supreme Court. Many of us are working from home or attending school online, and all of us are gearing up for flu season on top of the coronavirus pandemic, which doesn't seem to have an end in sight. It's going to be an interesting season. To get through all of this year, we are going to have to prepare and refresh not just our homes and our gardens, but our spirits as well. We're going to need deep spiritual reserves. So, I'm wondering if this week, we could take some time in observance of the autumn equinox in celebration of Mabon to prepare ourselves spiritually for what is to come. So how do we do that? How do we build up spiritual reserves, you ask? It starts with being intentional. It starts by simply noticing what is happening. In The Feminine of History is Mystery, Jenny Dupree says, "Now we descend into the dark half of the year. Now the power of the invisible world is waking to balance that of the visible, which is on the wane. We harvest, we prune, we gather into storerooms. We withdraw our commitments to the external world in order to release energy for growth underground, to let our souls grow deep in the hidden dimension." Whatever's going on in the world, in politics, in the media, or otherwise, we can let our souls grow deep. We don't have to let the difficult, dark moments of life or the rough edges of society harden our hearts. No. We can lean into the hidden dimension. We can bravely go into the darkness and mystery and remain open, not scared. We can grow wild, rich, steady souls with intention and devotion. We can choose spiritual wellness. As you think about this week, there are a few spiritual practices you might want to try. You can take a spiritual inventory in the form of prayer or meditation, journaling, whatever works for you. Reflect on the past year and see if you can harvest what is good in your life. Then release the bad stuff. You can take a walk or otherwise spend time in nature this week. The weather looks perfect for it, so plan to get outdoors. Let the earth invite you out beyond the daily grind and constant need to be in control, out into the flow that is bigger than the self and any of us combined. Observe the sun and the moon. Take in the sights, smells, and sounds of this season. There may be other spiritual practices that you like to do, other ways to renew your spirit and fill your tank for the weeks and months ahead. But if you prefer, you can always simply do nothing. As May Sarton wrote in Journal of Solitude, "I always forget how important the empty days are, how important it may be sometimes not to expect to produce anything, even a few lines in a journal. A day when one has not pushed oneself to the limits seems a damaging day, a sinful day. Not so. The most valuable thing we can do for the psyche occasionally is to let it rest, wander, live in the changing light of a room." So whatever you do or don't do to honor and celebrate this week, just do it with intention. Purposely engage with the opportunity this time of year brings for balance and renewal. If you do this, you might find that not only your home is renewed, but your spirit as well. Your spirit may just be cleansed, renewed, and ready for whatever comes next. The essence, of course, to all of this is simply being mindful and present. At this time of year, like any other time, the present moment right now is the only thing that matters. Yes, I know the future is uncertain. I know it's starting to look a little scary. But think about it like this. You know when you're standing on a set of train tracks looking down out at the horizon, If you look down here and now at your feet, the train tracks are perfectly parallel, all is well. But further on, it always seems like the two sides of the track are getting closer and closer until they converge somewhere in the distance. If you're a train, this might make you a little nervous, wondering if this is going to be the right track for me. The journey is looking a little dicey. Pause, take a breath, look down. In the present moment, the tracks are perfectly straight at just the right distance from one another, and all is well. Looking ahead, you get that scary perspective again, but as you travel, just keep breathing, stay in the present moment, be here and now, and you will always find the tracks beneath you are perfectly parallel, perfectly in balance, in the moment. Staying in the present helps us remember that the things we worry about don't always end up happening. Sometimes they do. But here and now, today, the future is not currently happening. It does no good to worry about what might be. Just be here with what is and breathe. Let yourself be present. Especially this year, am I right? The last 6 months have been a whirlwind, and we are all exhausted from the derecho last month. So before we head into the next season of life, let's take some time to rest and recover. Let's be intentional about rebuilding our reserves. Let's prepare our spirits for whatever comes next. As Baha'i author Jelena Palmer wrote in a blog last year, the storms of life will come. You can count on it. But with a little preparation and intentional spiritual growth, you will be able to weather any storm. Within myself, she says, I can prepare by having faith in the greater good, meditating and praying, maintaining supportive relationships, and integrating inner strength gained through earlier events. Having gotten through difficulties in the past helps me to get through present ones. Recognizing the extent of my present capabilities gives me confidence to face the future. And having confidence in myself puts me in a better position to help others, just as sometimes I am the one who needs help. If we have learned anything so far this year, it is that we can get through immense difficulties. We are capable, strong, enough. We are enough. We have demonstrated this over and over again. Whatever happens now, we will rise to meet the occasion, and all shall be well. I know the world feels out of balance, but we can prepare our spirits and cultivate balance within. This week, let the natural world be your guide. Pay attention. Notice what's happening. Let the ancient wisdom of the autumn equinox, that which invites us to cleanse, renew, and prepare, seep into your bones. Don't worry about tomorrow. Stay focused on today and trust that you can weather any storm. Lord knows you've done it before. May this be so. Amen, and blessed be. At this time, we're going to take an offering to support the good works of the church. There are a couple of ways you can do this. You can, of course, send us a check to the address on the screen. You can give online at our website if you go to our Donate Now tab. And if you have a smartphone, we have an app called Give Plus, which allows you to do that very easily from your smartphone. So at this time, Karen Mueller is going to play music once again as we collect this morning's offering. Thank you, Karen, and thank you all for your generous support of this ministry. I'd like to invite everyone now into a guided meditation that I've adapted from Lori Gorgas Halbin. So please notice your breath. Find your feet on the floor. And find yourself here and now in this moment. Pause. Balanced in the center between the longest and shortest days. Equinox. The wheel of the year turns and turns again. The air cools, the days shorten, the darkness grows. This is our opportunity now to pause, to be balanced, breathing in, breathing out, knowing this moment. This moment is all we're guaranteed. Like the sun moving toward the shortest day, each moment arises and is gone before we know it. This is the time to pause, to renew, to prepare. In time, we will enter the season of contemplation, of darkness, of lying fallow, of dormancy. For now, we embrace the season of letting go, of lightening burdens, of preparing to be still, going deep. Pause here. Be here. Breathe in, breathe out. It is the Jewish New Year, Rosh Hashanah. Lashana Tova to all who celebrate. May your new year be sweet and filled with blessings. Breathe in, and as you breathe out a prayer for those in the West moving through another season of record wildfires. Breathe out a prayer for those of us and our friends and neighbors still recovering from the derecho. May all be well. Breathe in solidarity with parents and children adapting to a challenging school year. Breathe out love and understanding. May they be well. Breathe in the intention to vote with your UU values this November. Breathe out gratitude and resolve. Pause and consider binaries, dark and light, hot and cold, chaos and order. Neither extreme is inherently good or bad. It's all a matter of balance, of honoring the spectrum for which binaries mark the endpoints. Today, we mark the midpoint between summer and winter solstice, a time to seek balance and be free. May this be so. Amen, and blessed be. If you have a candle at home, I invite you to light it now, as Kate and I light candles here in the sanctuary on behalf of you all and whatever it is that you might be holding in your hearts this day. And I will also be lighting a candle for all those we have lost to the COVID-19 pandemic thus far. Our closing hymn this morning is number 21, For the Beauty of the Earth. I hope you will join me in singing from home. Please help me extinguish the chalice by saying the words with me on your screen. We extinguish this chalice flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again. And now for our postlude.
I'll be playing the Blue Boat Home melody twice through instrumentally, and then we'll invite everybody to sing the 3 wonderful verses. I'll get my headphones off. Here we go.
day and night, light and dark, are perfectly in balance. Let the natural world guide you this week as you renew your spirit and cultivate balance within. Practice presence. Trust you can weather any storm. Go in peace, and we'll see you next week.